President Donald Trump has paused 50% tariffs on Canada for 3 days. That's after last-minute breakthrough in trade talks. In a post on his social media platform, he says he's pausing the tariffs on Canada that were scheduled to come into effect in the coming hour. He's given 3 days for a deal to be finalized. Well, let's cross now live to Matthew Torres, who's standing by for us in Washington, D.C. Matthew, what does this last-minute deal mean in practice, and what's the latest we're hearing from officials about all this?
Well, according to Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, both countries are inching closer to a trade deal. In a new statement he released, Carney said that substantial progress has been made, although there is important work still to be done. The U.S. trade representative involved in these negotiations has also said that Canada's deal will include comprehensive market access for all American goods, digital alignment, and economic security commitments. President Donald Trump has delayed the 50% tariffs on Canadian goods for 3 days, giving both the U.S. and Canada that time to finalize details of this deal. We have yet to find out what concessions are being considered. We still don't know if the Canadian tariffs on U.S. cars, dairy, and liquor will be lifted, and we still have yet to find out if the U.S. will ease tariffs on certain Canadian sectors. What we are hearing for the first time, according to that Truth Social from President Donald Trump, is a reference to the Keystone XL pipeline. That was a project, oil project from Canada to the U.S., which effectively was abandoned in 2021 after years of opposition. On Truth Social, President Trump says that that project could be revived. And notably, if the tariffs took effect after midnight, Canadian energy products would have been excluded.
And Matthew, just based on how these negotiations have played out in the past, is there any expectation at this stage that we could be back at the exact same spot in 3 days from now, that this could all go down to the wire yet again?
Look, both parties have acknowledged that there have been weeks of intense negotiations. This is the closest that they have come to some sort of an agreement. At the same time, though, there could always be a restart in negotiations. One party could bring up new demands that could potentially derail what has already been discussed. Canadian trade representatives have been in Washington trying to finalize a deal. Mark Carney himself earlier this week described the discussions as delicate. In his statement, which he released, he didn't use any of that language, although he did say there have been outstanding trade issues that needed to be addressed in order to deliver greater certainty to Canadians. And of course, this has been a big concern for the Canadian economy, which more than 70% of Canadian exports go to the U.S.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Matthew Torres, live for us in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much, Matthew. Well, Osama Kadi is a senior economist and consultant. He joins us now live from Ottawa. Osama, thanks so much for being with us here on Al Jazeera. Look, we know the negotiations between the U.S. and Canada had been going down to the wire. Were you surprised at all by this last-minute pause from Trump, this 3 days of a delay to the start of the tariffs?
Not really, actually. I'm not really optimistic with this negotiation. This is the fifth round since March 2025, and all of them is just a bunch of failure rounds. And I don't think this will be different. But even though I see this a very good wake-up call for the Canadian economic system, they are right now opening new markets for Canada since 2025. Like they opened the Chinese market, Indonesia, we have Armenia, we have many other countries, including United Arab Emirates. There's another agreements with them. They are like with Ecuador, with Oman. So they open at least more than 10 new markets for Canadian products, which is good. That will maybe make up some of what they lost by losing some shares, at least 5% shares of their like trade with the United States.
Osama, U.S. trade representatives, they've said that the deal with Canada will include comprehensive market access to all American goods. Help us put that in perspective. What does that mean in practice for American traders and for Canadian markets?
Actually, the sticky points between both countries are the agricultural products, mainly the dairy products and wine and other agricultural products. The problem with the United States, when they impose tariffs in all products from Canada, they are shooting their feet because like we have more than 3-4 plants of American car producers in the States, like GM and Chrysler and Ford and other companies. They have plants in Canada. So when they are trying to export the cars, their own cars back, they are imposing these tariffs. I think he can't just put one number for all products, 50% or 100% or whatever, on all these products. It will affect increasing prices and more inflation in the state itself. I think I'm not really that optimistic that they will reach such a agreement with this round, to be honest, with all these products. And by the way, even though like oil and gas with the United States used to be like 95% of the Canadian ones go to the state, right now actually went down to almost 90%. Same thing like for minerals and agricultural products. Yes, the Canadian actually lost some of the shares of the American markets, but that's because of unfair tariffs as the Canadian perceived it. In the same time, they actually gain some foreign direct investment, more than maybe close to $10 billion between 24 and 2025. And 2026, the final number is not yet there.
All right. Osama Kadi is a senior economist and consultant and was joining us there live from Ottawa. Osama, thanks so much for being with us here on Al Jazeera. We appreciate it.